Welcome to Shatter.
Help me reach 5,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. It happened in the middle of Target. Not during an argument. Not in some heavy, dramatic moment. Just a normal Saturday. We were picking up paper towels and snacks for movie night, something we used to enjoy together. I reached for her hand. She didn't take it. I brushed it off. Maybe she was distracted. But then, as we walked past the checkout line, I did something simple. I leaned in, just a little, and reached to hug her from the side. No drama. No expectations. Just affection. She froze. Pulled away like I'd touched a hot stove. And loud enough for the woman behind us to hear. She said, "Don't touch me. I'm not in the mood to play wife today." She didn't whisper it. She didn't even glance at me. Just turned back to her phone and kept scrolling, like I'd embarrassed her by existing. I stood there for a second, frozen in that in-between space where shame meets disbelief. The cashier looked up. Some guy in the line chuckled. She didn't notice any of it, or pretended not to. Her thumbs kept moving across her screen, perfectly manicured, detached from the mess she'd just dropped in my chest. And in that moment, I didn't speak. I didn't ask what that was about. Didn't demand an apology. Didn't create a scene. I just turned to her and said, quietly, "You won't have to anymore." That was it. 7 words. And something inside me clicked. A quiet pivot, like a lock turning in the door of my own mind. If she didn't want to play wife, fine. She was about to learn what it felt like when her husband stopped showing up. We finished checkout in silence. She walked ahead like nothing had happened, texting someone. Maybe a friend. Maybe someone else. She had no idea what had just changed. The rest of that day? Normal on the outside. I drove. She barely looked up. Talked about some influencer drama. Bought a Bath and Body Works candle like her coldness in that checkout line was just routine now. But that night, while she was in the shower, I started deleting photos from my phone. Not out of spite. Just preparation. She hadn't hugged me in weeks. Stopped saying goodnight. Her phone never left her hand. And every time I asked if she was okay, she'd say I was too needy. Too much. But what hit hardest wasn't the words. It was how public it had become. That moment in Target wasn't the start. It was the reveal. The mask slipping. The first time she didn't bother hiding how far gone she already was. And me? I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just made a silent decision. This was the last time she would ever get to humiliate me. And the best part? She didn't even realize I was already gone. The first real shift came 2 days later, Sunday afternoon. We were at her friend Brianna's house for brunch. One of those casual catch-up things. Mimosas, avocado toast, light gossip layered over smiles that never reached the eyes. I didn't want to go. She insisted. I agreed, quietly. I was already operating on a different frequency. Brianna had always been overly friendly with me. But that day, something about her was off. Nervous. Glancing between us like she was trying to read a room that hadn't spoken aloud in weeks. The 3 of us sat outside on the patio. My wife went inside to grab more ice. Brianna leaned over and asked how things were between us. I just gave her the same shrug I'd given everyone lately. Controlled. Neutral. She tried to laugh it off. Said something like, "Relationships go through phases, right? I mean, especially when there's someone else in the picture." Then she froze. Eyes wide. Too late. Her words were already out. She tried to backpedal, fast. Said she meant emotionally, not literally. That people get distracted, need space. But I saw the panic. The flush rising on her face. The way her glass shook slightly in her hand. Brianna had just told me everything without saying much at all. I smiled. Just a little. And said nothing. That moment, for her, passed. For me, it became the cornerstone of a new plan. That night, while my wife slept next to me, her back turned, her breathing steady, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Not sad. Not angry. Focused. That kind of focused you feel in your chest before a storm. I wasn't going to confront her. I wasn't going to accuse anyone. I was going to gather everything. I started small. Checked her phone usage, not messages, just screen time. Her most active hours weren't during work anymore. They were late. After midnight. I took note. Quietly started changing my routines. Left the house earlier. Came home later. Made small shifts in my behavior that she wouldn't notice right away. She didn't. She was distracted. Every evening, she'd curl up on the couch with her iPhone, lost in endless scrolling. I'd sit nearby, pretending to read, eyes barely moving across the page. I started picking up fragments. A name. A laugh. A tone shift. She was comfortable now. Too comfortable. She thought I was still the same man. Still waiting. Still hoping. Perfect. Because while she played her game, I was starting mine. I began tracking patterns. How long her showers lasted. How often she turned her phone face down. When she suddenly needed space or ran quick errands. And always, how little she noticed me slipping further away. That was the real betrayal. Not the secret conversations. Not the hidden smiles. But the fact that she didn't even see me anymore. And if she didn't see me, she'd never see it coming when I left. It didn't take long before the evidence found me. Not because I went looking. Because she got sloppy. One evening, she left her MacBook open on the kitchen counter. She'd been uploading vacation photos, some from last year, some from recent weekends she'd claimed were solo recharge days. I wasn't even curious at first. Just tired. I was making coffee. About to walk away. Then I saw it. A thumbnail in the corner. A hotel room I didn't recognize. 2 wine glasses. Her bare shoulder reflected in a mirror behind the bed. A man's hand on her waist. Just the edge of it, blurred by motion. The date? Last Saturday. She told me she was visiting her sister in Raleigh. That she needed a mental health break. I'd sent her money for the gas. Offered to book her a spa day. Like a fool. She never went to Raleigh. She went to him. I didn't click on the photo. Didn't scroll. Didn't breathe. I just memorized the file name, took my coffee, and left the kitchen. That night, she joked about how tired she was from the drive. I watched her laugh. Watched her curl up in our bed, swipe through TikTok, sip her herbal tea like she hadn't shattered something sacred. I nodded along, smiled when appropriate, said goodnight. And while she slept, I quietly logged into the iCloud account we once shared. She must have forgotten it still synced to an old backup email of mine. I didn't dig deep. Just enough to see 3 more photos. One from the hotel bar. One from the pool. One blurry shot of her in a dress I didn't recognize, taken by someone else. I saved them all. Not for revenge. For clarity. Because now, I had proof. Not just suspicion. And more importantly, I had control. She was still walking around the house like everything was fine. She still rolled her eyes when I asked if she wanted dinner. Still gave those vague, detached answers every time I asked how her day was. But inside, everything had shifted. Because now I was planning. Quietly. I changed all my passwords. Locked down the shared accounts. Moved half of my direct deposit into a new bank. Started reading about legal separation in North Carolina. Just research. Just options. She didn't notice. She was too busy texting someone else across the kitchen island, barely bothering to hide the smile on her face. That was the part that stuck with me. The way she smiled more for her phone than she ever did for me. She thought I was still trying. Still hoping. But I had already left the relationship. Just not the house. Not yet. Because silence is more than absence. It's a strategy. And I wasn't going to raise my voice. I was going to raise the stakes. I left the house at 6:12 a.m. on a Wednesday. No warning. No note. No explanation. I didn't pack a suitcase. Didn't slam the door. Just threw a change of clothes in a backpack, turned off my phone, and drove. She didn't even stir. By the time she rolled out of bed and reached for her first iced coffee order on the Starbucks app, I was already 2 states away. I didn't leave out of anger. I left because it was time. Time for her to feel what I'd been feeling for months. Silence. Distance. The absence of certainty. The money she used every week? Frozen. Our joint credit cards? Cancelled. The backup debit she didn't know I could lock remotely? Done. I watched the notifications roll in from a gas station just past the South Carolina border. 3 declined transactions. 1 frantic call. A voicemail. Clipped. Confused. Her voice didn't sound angry. It sounded scared. And not scared for me. Scared of what it meant that I was gone. That night, I checked into a cheap Airbnb near the coast. Nothing fancy. Just quiet. I turned my phone back on, ignored the 17 missed calls, and opened a notebook. Legal pad. Clean pages. I started writing things down. Passwords, account closures, timelines. Everything I'd need for the next stage. She still didn't know where I was. She didn't know I had pulled most of our money from the shared account 2 weeks ago. That I'd already met with a divorce attorney last Friday. That I'd listed the truck for sale the night before. This wasn't about revenge. It was about precision. About taking back control, 1 step at a time. I ordered takeout from a local Waffle House. Sat alone on the porch and watched the ocean in the distance. And for the first time in months, I felt calm. Not because I had answers, but because I finally stopped asking the wrong questions. She didn't reach out to apologize. She didn't send anything heartfelt. Just questions. Panic. Demands. Where are you? Why is the card not working? Why are you ignoring me? Not once did she ask if I was okay. That was telling. I didn't reply. I let her calls go to voicemail, one by one. I let her texts pile up like snow on a windshield I had no intention of clearing. Because silence, when chosen, is power. When I came back 24 hours later, the house was still. She was on the couch, eyes red, phone in hand. She looked up like she expected answers. I gave her none. Just walked past her. Calm. Collected. Her lips moved, but I wasn't listening. Because now, for the first time, she was trying to figure me out. And that's exactly where I wanted her. Off balance, uncertain, chasing something she thought she had already broken. I learned his name through her Instagram. Buried in the comments, barely hidden. She'd liked 3 of his posts in a row, something she never did with mine. His name was Chase Morgan. Tech consultant. Wannabe entrepreneur. One of those fast-talking, soft-handing types who took too many mirror selfies and called it branding. He wasn't subtle. His page was all confidence and cliches, quotes about risk, hustle, legacy. All of it carefully curated to look like success. But I saw the cracks almost immediately. His startup had a name, but no registered LLC. His projects were half-baked apps no one downloaded. His partners were old college friends who ghosted him in the comments. I dug deeper. No need to hack or spy. He did all the work for me. His LinkedIn showed a string of failed ventures. His business website had typos. His pitch deck was public. Rookie mistakes. But the real gem came when I found the listing for his consulting services. A shell company, built on borrowed money and unpaid invoices. He wasn't dangerous. He was desperate. Perfect. I compiled everything. Public records. Missed court dates. A quiet cease and desist letter filed against him by a former partner last year. I made copies, organized them in a neat little package. And then I delivered it, anonymously, to the one place that mattered, his biggest investor. A small VC group based in Charlotte, proudly showcasing his name as a featured startup leader on their homepage. I didn't write anything dramatic. Just a simple email with attachments linking to his own words, his own failures, his own mess. And then I walked away. No threats, no warnings, no demands, just facts. It took less than 72 hours before the fallout began. She didn't know I was behind it. All she saw was his sudden silence, the change in his tone, the nervous energy in his texts, the late-night calls that ended with her staring blankly at her phone like it had betrayed her. She tried to play it cool, told me she was just overwhelmed at work, that she needed space, that she was dealing with some things. I nodded, asked nothing. Meanwhile, her lover's empire, built on sand, was already crumbling. And I watched from the kitchen table, sipping coffee from the same mug she'd once bought me from a Target clearance aisle. The irony was sharp. Fitting. She thought she was choosing between 2 men. She didn't realize one of them had already chosen not to be chosen. I didn't need to fight him. I didn't need to outshine him. I just needed to remind him, quietly, that actions have consequences, and that the woman he was risking everything for had already cost more than she was worth. And as for her, she still hadn't noticed I'd already moved everything of value, emotionally, financially, spiritually, out of our marriage. She was about to learn what it feels like when a man stops fighting and starts finishing. Reputation doesn't fall all at once. It peels, quietly, layer by layer. It started with her friend group. The same 3 women she used to brunch with every Saturday. Brianna was already cautious around her, after what she'd let slip. So I made sure Brianna had enough dots to connect. Nothing dramatic. Just a message. A forwarded post. A polite, "Hey, thought you should see this," sent from a fake account. One of the photos I'd saved, the one from the hotel mirror, landed softly in Brianna's inbox. No threats. No caption. Just the timestamp. By the following weekend, brunch was postponed. Then came her coworker, James. They used to joke a lot, borderline flirty. She said it was harmless. Maybe it was. Maybe not. I didn't care either way. But when I bumped into James at a local Best Buy while grabbing a new hard drive, I just gave him a polite nod. Then I said, casually, that I'd heard she and Chase had been working late together. He blinked. Said nothing. but his face told me everything. By Monday, the tone in the office had shifted. She came home quiet, said people were acting weird. No one had congratulated her on her promotion. One manager barely looked her in the eye. She laughed it off, said it must be the Monday blues. But I saw the panic creeping in. Not from guilt, from exposure. She never confessed, never asked me what I knew. Because people like her don't admit. They unravel under pressure, piece by piece. And I wasn't giving her the storm she expected. Just silence, just distance. Even her parents started pulling back. Her mom had always adored me, used to call me the rock in her daughter's life. I'd sent a single, heartfelt message, just said we were taking space, and that I appreciated everything they'd done for us. Her father replied, "We're here if you need anything." That was all I needed. Because now, her support system wasn't sure who to believe. And uncertainty? It spreads faster than truth. She started staying home more. Her phone rang less. She deleted old posts from Instagram, the curated couple shots from weekends that now looked like lies. I watched her try to edit the past like she could fix the present. But the damage was already done. Her social glow? Dimmed. Her network? Thinning. And through it all, I said nothing. Because I didn't need to destroy her. I just needed her to watch everything slip through her fingers and not know why. It's easy to pretend when no one's looking. It's much harder when the room goes quiet. And now, she was standing in the silence she'd created, alone. She came into the kitchen one morning wearing one of my old hoodies. I'd been sitting at the table, laptop open, reviewing documents for the lawyer. She poured herself coffee in silence. No makeup, hair tied back. Not the polished version of her that the world used to see. Just a woman unraveling, trying to hold the edges of her life together with shaking hands. And then, she said something strange. She asked if I could sit with her later. Just for a bit, she said. I just need to talk. Not explain. Not confess. Just talk. It was the first time in weeks that she'd dropped the mask. And for a second, I saw the girl I once knew. The girl who used to fall asleep on my chest during Netflix marathons. The one who would steal fries from my plate at Applebee's and call it tax. But I didn't move. Didn't answer right away. I just sipped my coffee and looked at her like she was someone else. Because now she was. Later that evening, I did sit with her. Same couch. Same house. But the distance between us felt like another continent. She spoke slowly. Not in control anymore. Not performing. She said she felt like everything was off. That she didn't understand what was happening between us. That she missed me. Even though I'd been right there the whole time. That was the moment it hit her. I hadn't raised my voice. I hadn't left the house. I hadn't made threats or accusations. But I had already left her. And that realization cracked something inside her. Her voice broke when she said, "I just don't want to lose us." But there was no us left. Only memory. She reached for my hand. I let her touch it. But I didn't close mine around hers. And that silence? That stillness? It hit harder than any fight we could have had. She was used to chaos. Drama. Push and pull. But this? This was absence. Presence without connection. I told her I'd been thinking a lot. Told her maybe space would be good for both of us. She nodded like she agreed, but her eyes betrayed her. She was terrified, not of the space, but of what I might become in it. Because space doesn't just give people room to think. It gives them room to grow. And she knew I was growing out of her, faster than she could pretend to fix what she'd broken. And the worst part? I still hadn't raised my voice. Because I didn't need to. Some truths echo louder when whispered in silence. She tried that Friday night. Tried to rewind the clock like nothing had happened. I came home to candles lit on the dining table, slow jazz humming through the Bluetooth speaker, and the faint smell of lasagna in the oven. The lights were dimmed. She was wearing the navy blue dress I'd once told her made her look like the most elegant woman in any room. And for a moment, I stood in the doorway and just watched. It was a performance. Not for love. For control. I knew the moves. Knew the timing. The way she'd pour the wine before the food hit the plate. The way she'd lower her voice, tilt her head, smile like she hadn't shattered the foundation of what we'd built. But I wasn't the man who once fell for that. Not anymore. She greeted me like nothing had changed. Kissed my cheek softly. Told me she'd missed me this week. That she was trying. That she wanted us to have a normal night, like we used to. I nodded. Sat down. Ate the food. It was good. She still knew how to cook. But the room was filled with something thicker than garlic and butter. Distance. Even as she talked, Light chatter about her day, funny memes, plans for the weekend. I felt like I was listening through a glass wall. I smiled when she did. Laughed once, politely. But there was no weight to it. Just air. She leaned in at one point. Reached for my hand again. I didn't flinch. But I didn't squeeze back. She paused. And I saw it in her eyes. She knew. Whatever this was, it wasn't working. Not because I was angry. Because I was empty. I wasn't punishing her. I was done with her. She tried to revive something that had flatlined months ago. And she thought a playlist, a dress, and a homemade meal could restart a heart she had spent a year suffocating. But I didn't feel moved. I felt nothing. After dinner, she suggested a movie, something nostalgic. She curled up next to me on the couch. Put her head on my shoulder. I let her. But I didn't feel her there. Because I was already somewhere else, in my mind, in my decisions, in my future. And that was the cruelest truth of all. She still thought this was a marriage she could repair. But I'd already stepped outside the wreckage. Not to look back, but to walk away. And when a man walks away in silence, that's when she realizes the game is over. And she's the only one still playing. The collapse didn't come with thunder. It came with silence. It started when she missed a meeting at work, something she never did. Her boss didn't call to check in. No one sent a follow-up. Just quiet distance. Professional courtesy turned cold. She told me that night she felt invisible. That the office had changed. That people barely looked at her anymore. She asked if I thought she was imagining it. I said nothing. Just looked at her with the same steady stillness I'd cultivated over months. Then her mom canceled Sunday dinner. No excuse. Just a text. Maybe another weekend. That shook her. She'd always been the golden child. The daughter who had everything together. Now, even the people who once swore she could do no wrong were stepping back. Because when a man like me steps away, calmly, without noise, others notice. Not because I said anything, but because I didn't. The lack of defense becomes its own testimony. She posted a story on Instagram the next day, an old picture of us at Olive Garden, smiling like we didn't see the future coming. Captioned it, "Working through things. Love wins." But no one liked it. Not even her closest friends. I knew because I checked. That post vanished 2 hours later. By Thursday, I'd moved half my clothes out. Quietly. Folded. Gone. She didn't say a word. She just watched me. Like watching a stranger pack up a version of her life she couldn't access anymore. Her eyes were glassy. Not from tears. From fear. The kind that creeps in when a woman realizes she's no longer the main character in someone else's life. That the man she once controlled, through charm, manipulation, distraction, had become someone she couldn't reach. At work, she was being replaced on a project she once led. At home, she was walking through rooms I no longer filled with attention. And out in the world, whispers followed her. Not from me. Never from me. But the air had changed. People don't rally around someone who burns bridges and then acts surprised when no one builds them back. And I just kept moving. More gym. More time with old friends. Reconnected with my brother. Started planning a road trip I'd postponed for years. She saw the changes. In my body. In my focus. In my absence. But it wasn't the loss of me that broke her. It was the realization that my absence had weight. That people noticed when I stopped speaking and started disappearing. And that no one, not one person, came to pull her back from it. Because when the mask falls and the echo sets in, she finally understands. The silence is permanent. The morning I left, the house was silent. Not the comfortable kind of silence. The heavy, unspoken kind. The kind that fills a space like fog after something irreversible. I'd already planned it. Everything was packed. One suitcase. A box of papers. My watch. My name was off the lease. The lawyer had filed the paperwork. I had a new apartment key in my pocket and a fresh coffee in hand from a Waffle House near the freeway. She was in the kitchen, hair undone, still in pajamas, holding her phone like it might save her. She didn't speak when I walked in. She didn't cry. She just watched, like she wanted to say something, but realized too late that nothing she said would matter. I sat down across from her for the last time. No anger. No bitterness. Just clarity. It was the kind of calm that comes only after you've already let go. She asked if we could talk, but her voice cracked halfway through the question. I nodded. Let her speak. She rambled about taking a break, about finding a way to reset, about how things got messy but didn't have to end this way. I didn't interrupt. I didn't correct her. Because when a person's already halfway through a freefall, You don't hand them a parachute. You let them hit the ground. And maybe, just maybe, they remember the moment they cut the rope themselves. I stood up, grabbed my bag. She asked, "So that's it?" Still hoping I'd pause. Still waiting for some emotional finale. But there wasn't one. I looked her in the eyes, steady, unreadable, and said the only thing that mattered. "You won't have to play wife anymore." And with that, I walked out. No door slam. No final look over my shoulder. Just the click of the lock behind me. She didn't follow. She couldn't. Because she finally understood. This wasn't a man storming out. This was a man who'd already left long ago, who stayed just long enough to watch her facade collapse under its own weight. The days that followed? Voicemails. Texts. Blocked. She reached out to friends. They didn't reply. She tried my mother. She just said, "He's doing fine." Because I was. I started over. New space. New air. Gym in the mornings. Books at night. No explanations. No noise. Just peace. The kind that doesn't ask for approval. And her? She still scrolls through our old photos. Still types out messages she doesn't send. Still re-watches the ending, trying to find the part where I slipped away. But she'll never hear it. Because I didn't disappear. I just stopped showing up where I wasn't respected. And that silence? It'll echo louder than any goodbye ever could. Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories.